The vast emptiness of space lit up with the flashing lights of the Krasari fleet. Their ships were sleek and dangerous, covered in razor-sharp edges that reflected the distant starlight. Captain Dresthar stood on the command deck of his flagship, his 8 limbs positioned in the formal stance of a hunt leader. His scaled skin shimmered with anticipation as the scanners detected an unregistered vessel moving through the Vega corridor. "What species?" Dresthar asked, his voice a low rumble that made the junior officers flinch. "Readings suggest human, Captain," replied his second-in-command Vorzak. "A transport vessel called the Dauntless." Dresthar's mouth split into what passed for a smile among his kind, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. "Humans. We have not encountered their kind before. Their reputation says they use simple technology. They travel alone, Captain. No escort ships detected within 3 light minutes. The Krasari pirates had built their reputation by raiding ships across 3 galactic sectors. They were feared for their advanced weapons and their ruthless efficiency. Most species knew to travel in convoys through this part of space, but this human ship was all alone." "Move to intercept," ordered Dresthar. "Standard formation. Let them. See us coming." The pirate fleet shifted position, 8 attack vessels arranging themselves in a pattern that would cut off any escape routes. They approached the human ship with practiced precision. On board the Dauntless, Captain Frank Miller stood calmly on his bridge as the warning signals flashed across the main screen. He was a sturdy man with graying hair and eyes that had seen more battles than he cared to remember. "Looks like we've got company," he said, his voice even and controlled. "Tactical assessment, Lieutenant Garcia?" Jason Garcia, a younger man with quick hands and quicker eyes, studied his console. 8 vessels, Captain. Configuration unknown but similar to Drenthai battle cruisers, heavily armed. They're arranging themselves to block our path." "Interesting. Welcome, committee," Miller remarked. "Open a channel, please." Down in engineering, Olivia Winters received the alert at the same moment. She was tall and lean, with strong hands that could fix almost anything. Without waiting for orders, she began activating protocols that weren't listed in any galactic registry. Her fingers flew across the control panels, making adjustments that seemed minor, but would prove crucial in the hours to come. "Maddie," she called out to the ship's AI, "run silent diagnostics on all critical systems." A pleasant female voice responded, "Running diagnostics, Engineer Winters. All systems nominal." On the bridge, the main screen flickered to life, revealing the alien face of Captain Dresthar. The crew maintained their composure despite this being humanity's first contact with the Krasari species. "Human vessel," the alien captain hissed. "You have entered territory under Krasari protection. Your ship and cargo are now forfeit. Prepare to be boarded." Captain Miller raised an eyebrow but showed no fear. "This is Captain Frank Miller of the Earth vessel Dauntless. We're on a scheduled transport run through the Vega corridor, which is neutral space according to galactic treaty regulations." The alien captain made a sound that might have been laughter. "Treaties apply to those with the strength to enforce them. You are alone, human. Your ship's design is primitive. You have no escort, no significant weapons that our scans can detect." Miller nodded thoughtfully. "I see. And what do you intend to do?" The directness of the question seemed to surprise Dresthar. "We will board your vessel, take what we want, and decide whether you and your crew are worth keeping as labor. You have 1 standard hour to prepare for collection." The screen went dark. "Well, that was direct," Miller said. He pressed the ship-wide comm button. "Attention all crew, this is the captain. We have encountered a pirate fleet identifying themselves as Krasari. They intend to board us in 1 hour. This is not a drill. Implement Protocol Omega." Throughout the ship, the crew responded with remarkable calm. In the medical bay, Dr. Alan Robinson began preparing special packages of supplies and hiding them in sections of the walls that appeared solid, but could be accessed with the right pressure sequence. In the galley, Chef Danny Carter quickly secured his cooking equipment and reached beneath his prep station to retrieve a case that definitely didn't contain cooking utensils. At her security station, Lisa Jordan began distributing specialized communication devices to key personnel, while Noah Peterson, the security chief, gathered his team for a briefing that had nothing to do with surrender. Back in engineering, Olivia continued her work with increased urgency. Maddie, prepare for selective systems control. Authorization Winters 7-3 Echo. Authorization confirmed, replied the AI. Selective systems control ready to implement on your command. Captain Miller remained on the bridge, watching. As the pirate ships drew closer, Lieutenant Garcia joined him at the main viewport. They're scanning us again, sir, Garcia reported. More detailed this time. Let them look, Miller replied. They won't find anything they understand. After exactly 1 hour, the Krasari ships moved into docking positions around the Dauntless. Magnetic clamps attached to the hull with metallic thuds that resonated through the ship. Boarding parties detected at airlocks 2, 5, and 7, announced Maddie, her voice as calm as if she were reporting the weather. Acknowledge, Miller responded. Maintain standard operations. The first group of Krasari pirates cut through the airlock doors with plasma torches. They stormed into the Dauntless with weapons raised, expecting resistance or at least panic. Instead, they found humans standing in ordered groups, apparently ready to be processed. Captain Dresthar himself led the boarding party that made its way to the bridge. His soldiers secured the human crew members they encountered, herding most of them toward the cargo bay. When he reached the bridge, he found Captain Miller waiting for him, hands clasped behind his back. Your ship is now mine, Dresthar announced, expecting to see defeat in the human's eyes. Miller merely nodded. So it would appear. Confused by this response, Dresthar moved to the main control console and ordered his technicians to begin overriding the ship's systems. They worked furiously at the unfamiliar interfaces while Dresthar watched Miller. You seem unconcerned for someone who has just lost everything, the pirate captain observed. Miller shrugged. I've found that concern rarely improves a situation. The Krasari technician at the main console made a frustrated sound. Captain, their systems are unusual. I cannot access the main computer core. What do you mean? Dresthar demanded. It responds to my commands, then reroutes through pathways I cannot track, the technician explained. And there are no backup systems. Dresthar turned to Miller. Every spacefaring vessel has backup systems. Where are yours? For the first time, Miller smiled. It was a small expression, but it made Dresthar suddenly uneasy. That, said the human captain, is what you're about to learn. The cargo bay of the Dauntless had been transformed into a makeshift prison. Most of the human crew sat on the metal floor, surrounded by armed Krasari guards. The aliens towered over their captives, their scaled skin reflecting the harsh overhead. Lights Lisa Jordan, the communications officer, sat near the center of the group. She was in her 30s with short brown hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Next to her, Security Chief Noah Peterson leaned close and whispered. They separated the captain and Garcia, taking them to the bridge. Lisa nodded slightly. Standard procedure. How many of our people are still unaccounted for? Winters in engineering with 2 of her team. Robinson in medical. Carter near the galley. They didn't seem to consider him important, Noah replied, his voice barely audible. Their mistake, Lisa said with the hint of a smile. One of the guards noticed them talking and stomped forward, weapon raised. No talking, humans. Be silent or be hurt. Lisa raised her hands in a gesture of compliance. Sorry, just scared. The guard seemed satisfied with this show of fear and moved away. As soon as his attention shifted, Lisa made a subtle hand gesture to a group of crew members sitting against the far wall. They acknowledged with equally subtle movements. On the bridge, Captain Dresthar was growing increasingly frustrated. His technicians worked frantically at the ship's consoles, but something was wrong. The main computer, which the humans called Maddie, continued to run ship systems despite their attempts to override it. Explain this, Dresthar demanded, shoving Lieutenant Garcia against a console. Why can't we take control of your systems? Garcia, a man with steady nerves and steadier hands, didn't flinch. Our systems are different from what you're used to. They're designed to be resilient. Captain Miller, who was being held at the other side of the bridge, spoke up. You might want to check on your boarding parties on decks 3 and 4. You haven't heard from them in a while, have you? Dresdhar's eyes narrowed to slits. He tapped his communication device. Report, Deck 3 team. When no response came, he tried again. Deck 4 team, report immediately. Silence filled the bridge. Dresdhar turned to his second-in-command. Go find out what's happening. As Vorzak left the bridge with 2 guards, Miller said calmly, You look confused, Captain. Something not going according to plan? What trick is this? Dresdhar demanded. Where are your ship's backup systems? Every vessel has emergency protocols, secondary control systems. Miller leaned against the wall, surprisingly relaxed for a prisoner. We don't build backup systems into our ships because we build redundancy into our crews instead. Deep in the engineering section, Olivia Winters was proving Miller's point. She had managed to seal off the main engine room after letting the Krezari guards believe they had captured her. Now she worked with 2 of her team, their fingers flying over control panels. Maddie, Olivia said quietly. Selective Systems Control, Authorization Winter 7-3 Echo. Reduce life support in sections 12 through 17 to minimal levels. Implementing, the AI responded. Life support reduced in specified sections. One of Olivia's team, a young man named Paul Bennett, looked up from his console. The intruders in those sections will start feeling the effects in about 3 minutes. Good, Olivia said. That should thin their numbers. Have you re-established contact with the others? Paul nodded. Robinson has secured medical and synthesized the gas. Carter has reached the emergency weapons locker with Reed and Martinez. They're waiting on our signal. In the medical bay, Dr. Alan Robinson worked with focused precision. He was older than most of the crew, with steady hands and a methodical mind. The 2 Krezari guards who had been assigned to watch him lay unconscious, on the floor. Compound ready, he said to his assistant, Kelly Wood. Colorless, odorless, and it will put our scaled friends to sleep without harming humans. Kelly finished loading the compound into the ventilation system. Ready to deploy on your command, Doctor? Robinson checked his small communication device, waiting for the signal from engineering. Not yet. Winters needs to adjust the air circulation first. Meanwhile, in the galley area, Chef Danny Carter had transformed from a seemingly harmless cook into a tactical leader. The Krezari had barely posted guards here, considering the food preparation area low priority. That had been their second mistake. Danny, a former military strategist before becoming a ship's chef, had quickly neutralized the single guard and accessed the hidden weapons locker built into what appeared to be a food storage unit. With him were 2 crew members, Susan Reed and Juan Martinez, both trained in multiple combat roles despite their official positions as meteorologist and botanist. 8. Stunners, 4 pulse rifles. Danny counted quietly. Should be enough. Reed, what's our path to the cargo bay? Susan checked her tablet, which displayed the ship's layout with moving dots representing life signs. Maintenance Tunnel B looks clear. We can reach the east entrance to the cargo bay with minimal contact. Juan finished checking the weapons. Carter, look at this. The raiders have set up some kind of jamming device near the main corridor intersection. Danny examined the readout. Good catch. We'll need to take that out before the others can move. Back on the bridge, Dresdhar was becoming increasingly agitated. His second-in-command had not returned, and more of his teams were failing to report in. What is happening on this ship? He demanded. Miller exchanged a glance with Garcia before answering. I tried to tell you, humans don't specialize the way most species do. Each of my crew members can perform multiple jobs. My chef is a tactical expert. My doctor knows how to hack security systems. My botanist can handle weapons better than most soldiers. As if to emphasize his point, the ship's lighting suddenly shifted to a low red glow and Maddie's voice announced, Emergency protocols engaged. Dresdhar grabbed Miller by the front of his uniform. Call off whatever this is, or I'll have your crew executed. Miller remained calm. You've already lost half your boarding parties and you don't even realize it yet. I suggest you consider your options carefully. In the cargo bay, the change in lighting was the signal the human crew had been waiting for. Noah Peterson caught Lisa's eye and gave an almost imperceptible nod. Around the room, crew members tensed, ready to move. Lisa suddenly clutched her stomach and doubled over, groaning loudly. The nearest guard approached, weapon pointed at her. "What is wrong with you, human?" "I think I'm going to be sick," Lisa gasped, then suddenly drove her fist upward, striking the guard in a vulnerable spot where the neck scales were thinnest. The guard collapsed. This was the signal. Throughout the cargo bay, the supposedly helpless human crew sprang into action with coordinated precision. They moved in teams, each person knowing exactly what to do and how to support the others. The guards, caught by surprise, found themselves overwhelmed not by superior strength, but by the unexpected coordination of the humans, who fought not as individuals but as a single organism with many parts. Outside the cargo bay door, Danny Carter and his team arrived just in time to hear the commotion inside. "Sounds like they started without us," he said with a grim smile. "Let's give them some help." The door slid open and they entered, weapons raised, turning the tide decisively in favor of the human crew. Across the ship, section by section, the humans were taking back control, demonstrating exactly why their ships never needed backup systems. They were the backup for each other and for the ship itself. Captain Dresthar paced the bridge of the Dauntless, his clawed feet clicking against the metal floor. His remaining officers watched him nervously. Reports from throughout the ship painted a grim picture. Half of their boarding parties were no longer responding, and those that did reported being under attack by organized groups of humans. "Impossible," Dresthar snarled. "They are just transport crew, not warriors." Captain Miller, still under guard, but looking increasingly comfortable, shook his head. "That's where you made your mistake. On human ships, everyone is everything." Dresthar stopped his pacing to glare at the human. "Explain." "Humans don't build backup systems into our ships because we build redundancy into ourselves," Miller said. "Each crew member trains in multiple disciplines. My engineer can fight. My doctor can program computers. My security officer understands propulsion systems." Lieutenant Garcia, who had been silent until now, added, "We call it cross-training. It's been part of human space travel since we first left Earth." Drestar's communication device crackled. "Captain, the humans have retaken the cargo bay. They were ready for us." Before Dresthar could respond, the ship's lighting flickered, and several console screens went dark. The Krasari technician working at the main control panel hissed in frustration. "The ship systems are shutting down on all decks except this one," he reported. "Life support, gravity, everything." Miller smiled slightly. "That would be Olivia Winters, my chief engineer. She's particularly good at selective systems control." In engineering, Olivia directed her team with calm efficiency. Paul Bennett monitored the power distribution while she communicated with other crew members through a secure channel Maddie had established. "Cargo bay secure," came Noah Peterson's voice. "Moving to Deck 2 now." "Medical is with you," Dr. Robinson reported. "The gas is deployed in sections 15 through 22. All raiders in those areas are unconscious." Olivia nodded with satisfaction. "Good work. Maddie, status update?" The AI's voice was as calm as ever. 27 raiders neutralized. 42 remain active on the ship. Bridge remains under raider control. Captain Miller and Lieutenant Garcia are unharmed. "What about their ships?" Olivia asked, looking at the external sensor readings. "All 8 raider vessels remain docked. Their crews are maintaining position," Maddie reported. Olivia turned to her team. "Time to show them our teeth. Paul, prepare to bring weapon systems online." Paul looked up in surprise. "The ones they can see, or the ones they can't?" Olivia smiled. "Let's start with the ones they can't." On Deck 3, Chef Danny Carter led a team of 6 crew members through the corridors. They moved with practiced coordination, covering each other as they advanced. 2 Krasari raiders appeared at an intersection, and Susan Reed dropped them with quick, precise shots from her stunner. "Nice work," Danny said. "Lisa, what's our next target?" Lisa Jordan checked her small handheld device. "Bridge access is Through the next section, heavy raider presence. Juan Martinez, who had been checking something on his own device, spoke up. I have an idea. The maintenance shaft above us connects to the environmental controls for the bridge. If I can reach it, I can help Robinson's gas reach them faster. Danny nodded. Do it. We'll create a distraction. In the medical bay, Dr. Robinson had assembled a triage center. Several crew members with minor injuries were being treated, as well as a few Krasari raiders who had been stunned rather than killed. Bind them securely, Robinson instructed his assistant Kelly. But make sure the restraints don't cut off circulation. Their physiology is different from ours. Kelly raised an eyebrow as she secured a raider. Showing mercy to pirates? Robinson's expression was serious. We're not them, Kelly. We don't have to be cruel to win. On the bridge, the situation was deteriorating for the raiders. Dresethar received urgent communications from his ship. Captain, we're detecting power surges throughout. The human vessel, reported his ship's tactical officer. Energy readings indicate weapons powering up. Impossible, Dresethar said. Our scans showed minimal weapons capacity. The tactical officer sounded worried. Current readings show multiple weapon ports opening. They were hidden, disguised as sensor arrays and communication dishes. Miller exchanged a glance with Garcia. The lieutenant gave a small nod, shifting his weight slightly. Your scans showed what we wanted them to show, Miller explained. Standard procedure for human vessels in potentially hostile space. Dresethar turned to the human captain, rage clear in his eyes. This was a trap? You lured us in? Miller shook his head. No trap. We're genuinely on a transport mission, but we're always prepared. Humans learned long ago not to rely solely on technology. Technology can fail. People are more adaptable. A sudden commotion at the bridge door drew everyone's attention. The Krasari guards raised their weapons as the door slid open, revealing Chef Danny Carter and his team. Bridge is about to be secured, Captain, Danny reported casually as if he were announcing dinner was ready. Dresethar snarled and lunged toward Miller, weapon drawn, but Lieutenant Garcia moved with unexpected speed, grabbing the raider's arm and twisting it with practiced skill. The weapon clattered to the floor as Garcia applied pressure to a nerve point in the alien's wrist. I should mention, Miller said, conversationally, that Lieutenant Garcia trained in 3 different martial arts specifically adapted for non-human opponents. The remaining raiders on the bridge found themselves surrounded as more human crew members entered, all armed and moving with coordinated precision. Ship status, Maddie? Miller asked. The AI's voice came clearly through the bridge speakers. All decks secure, Captain. 73% of raider forces neutralized, remainder contained or surrendered. Miller nodded and approached Dresethar, who was now being held securely by Garcia. Here's what happens next, Captain. You order your remaining people to stand down. You return to your ships, and you spread the word about why attacking human vessels is a bad idea. Dresathar's eyes narrowed to slits. Why would I do this? My fleet still surrounds your ship. Miller nodded to Olivia, who had just entered the bridge. Show him, engineer. Winters. Olivia activated the main view screen, which displayed an external view of the Dauntless. Several panels along the ship's hull had slid aside, revealing weapon ports that had been completely hidden before. Each was now glowing with energy, aimed precisely at the docked raider ships. Those are Mark 7 pulse cannons, Olivia explained, designed to penetrate shields of vessels 3 times your size. Your ships are currently docked, with shields down. You do the math. Understanding dawned in Dresathar's eyes, followed by something humans rarely saw in Krasari faces: respect. You could have destroyed us at any time, he said. Miller nodded. We could have. But that's not our way unless it's necessary. Why reveal this now? Why not keep your advantages secret? Dresethar asked. Miller looked around at his crew, each person standing tall, each having played their part in retaking the ship. Because the weapons aren't our real advantage, my crew is, and that's the message I want you to take back to your people. Dresethar considered this for a long moment before giving a slight nod. A lesson well taught, human. We will remember. The next few hours aboard the Dauntless were tense but controlled. The human crew had secured the ship, but the situation remained delicate. Captain Dresdhar's fleet still surrounded them, and while the Krezari captain had agreed to withdraw, trust was in short supply on both sides. In the ship's conference room, which had been converted to a temporary command center, Captain Miller met with his senior crew. Around the table sat Olivia Winters, Noah Peterson, Lisa Jordan, Dr. Alan Robinson, and Chef Danny Carter, each now openly displaying the multiple roles they played on the ship. "Status report," Miller said, looking at each of them in turn. "Engineering is secure," Olivia reported. "All systems functioning normally. The hidden weapons remain powered and ready, but on standby mode." Noah Peterson nodded. "Security teams have gathered all raiders. 63 prisoners in total, including 12 with minor injuries that Dr. Robinson has treated." "The rest are dead?" Miller asked with a frown. "No, sir," Lisa Jordan clarified. 17 returned to their ships when Captain Dresdhar ordered them to withdraw. "We're monitoring them closely." Miller nodded with approval. "Good. Dr. Robinson, how are our people?" 7 crew members with minor injuries. "All treated and back on duty," the doctor reported. "The raiders are contained in Cargo Bay 2, with appropriate life support adjusted for their physiology." Miller turned to Danny Carter. "Chef, how did your team perform?" Danny smiled slightly. "Like we trained, Captain. Susan Reed showed particularly good tactical awareness. I'd recommend noting that in her file." "Agreed," Miller said. "And Lieutenant Garcia?" "Coordinating the bridge crew and keeping an eye on our guests," Noah answered. "He has Maddie running continuous scans of the raider vessels." Miller leaned back in his chair. "So now we have a standoff. Dresdhar has agreed to withdraw, but his fleet is still in position to attack if he changes his mind." Lisa Jordan spoke up. "Captain, I have a suggestion. The raiders seem genuinely curious about how we operate. Maybe we can use that." "Go on," Miller encouraged. "What if we offer a limited cultural exchange? Let them see firsthand how humans train and work. It might give them pause before attacking other human ships in the future." Miller considered this. "Interesting approach. Not standard protocol, but then again, nothing about this situation is standard." "It's risky," Noah pointed out. "They could gather intelligence to use against us later." Olivia shook her head. "I don't think that's their angle. From what I've seen of their technology, they're not interested in copying our systems. They're puzzled by our methods." Dr. Robinson nodded. "I noticed the same thing while treating their injured. They kept asking how a medical officer could also know combat techniques. The concept of cross-training seems completely foreign to them." Miller made his decision. "Let's do it. Lisa, arrange a limited exchange with Captain Dresdhar. No more than 5 of their people, and they'll be escorted at all times." As the meeting concluded, Miller added, "Remember, we're not just teaching them about humans. We're sending a message to anyone who might think about raiding our ships in the future." On the bridge, Lieutenant Garcia watched the main view screen where Dresdhar's face appeared, scaled features set in a careful neutral expression. "Your captain offers a cultural exchange?" the Krezari leader asked skeptically. 5 of your people may board, unarmed, to observe how we operate," Garcia explained. "In return, we want the release of any captives you may have from previous raids." Dresdhar made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You are in no position to make demands, human." Garcia raised an eyebrow. "Your boarding parties failed. Your people are our prisoners. Your ships are targeted by weapons you didn't know we had." "With respect, Captain, I think we are in exactly that position." After a long pause, Dresdhar nodded. 3 captives. That is all we have." "Then 3 it is," Garcia agreed. "Send them over in 1 hour, and your observation team may board at the same time." When Miller returned to the bridge, Garcia briefed him on the arrangement. "Good work, Lieutenant," Miller said. "Now let's prepare to show our visitors why human ships never need backup." The exchange happened exactly as arranged. 3 beings from different species were transferred from the Krezari flagship to the Dauntless: a blue-skinned Novan scientist, a crystalline Tellurian navigator, and a furry Vexian engineer. All looked malnourished and showed signs of harsh treatment, but were otherwise unharmed. Dr. Robinson personally escorted them to the medical bay for evaluation while Noah Peterson met the Krazari observation team at the airlock. "Welcome aboard the Dauntless," Noah said formally. "I am Security Chief Peterson. I will be your primary guide." The lead Krazari, who introduced himself as Science Officer Clavor, looked around with obvious curiosity. "Your captain claims humans are trained differently than other species. We wish to understand how." Noah nodded. "You'll see for yourselves. Let's start with engineering." In engineering, Olivia Winters was supervising repairs to a section damaged during the fighting. The Krazari observers watched with interest as she moved from welding a panel to reprogramming a control interface to calculating power distributions. In most species, these would be 3 different specialists, Clavor noted. "Yet you do all 3. Olivia nodded without pausing her work. "Basic cross-training. Every engineer on a human vessel knows at least 3 specialties. I personally am certified in structural engineering, computer systems, and power management. And combat techniques, apparently," another observer added, rubbing a bruise on his arm where he had encountered Olivia during the boarding. Olivia smiled slightly. "That too." The tour continued through the ship. In the medical bay, the observers watched Dr. Robinson perform surgery on an injured crew member, while simultaneously directing his team and monitoring the ship's biological containment systems. "Our medical specialists focus only on medicine," Clavor said. "They would not know how to operate these other systems." Robinson looked up briefly from his patient. "That specialization works until your medical specialist is incapacitated. What happens then?" The Krazari had no answer for that. In Far, the galley, they found Chef Danny Carter preparing a meal while discussing tactical plans with Susan Reed. "You are the food preparer?" Clavor asked in confusion. "I'm the chef," Danny confirmed. "Also tactical advisor, small arms specialist, and I teach hand-to-hand combat classes twice a week." He offered a plate of food to the observers. "Try this. It's a traditional human dish called lasagna." The Krazari exchanged uncertain glances but tried the food. Their expressions suggested approval. The food preparer, who can also fight, one of them muttered, "No wonder we failed." The tour ended on the bridge where Captain Miller welcomed the observers. "Questions?" he asked. Clavor stepped forward. "One fundamental question, Captain. Why do humans train this way? It seems inefficient." Miller considered his answer carefully. "Human history is filled with disasters, both natural and self-inflicted. We learned that specialization creates critical points of failure. If your navigation specialist dies, who flies the ship? If your weapons officer is injured, who defends you?" He gestured around the bridge. "Every person you see here can perform at least 3 critical roles on this ship. Lieutenant Garcia is our navigation officer, but he can also run tactical systems and communications. Our science officer can take over medical if needed." Clavor's eyes showed new understanding. "So when we disabled what we thought were your backup systems, you didn't realize our backup systems are our people," Miller finished for him. "Exactly." As the Krazari observation team prepared to return to their ship, Clavor approached Miller one last time. "This will change how the Krazari approach human vessels in the future," he said. "Your method has proven effective." Miller nodded. "That was the point of this exchange. Take that message back to your people." After the observers departed, Miller gathered his senior crew on the bridge. "Prepare for departure," he ordered. "Let's finish our delivery run." As the Dauntless disengaged from the Krazari fleet, Olivia Winters looked up from her console. "Captain, they're not following. All Raider vessels are standing down." Miller smiled. "Lesson learned, it seems." On the main view screen, the stars stretched into lines as the Dauntless resumed its journey, carrying both its original cargo and a new message that would soon spread throughout the galaxy. Human ships don't need backup systems because humans themselves are the ultimate backup. 3 weeks after the encounter with the Krazari Raiders, the Dauntless approached its destination, the bustling trade hub of Nova Station. The massive space station rotated slowly against the backdrop of a blue-green gas giant, its docking, arms extended like welcoming hands to incoming ships. Captain Frank Miller stood on the bridge, watching the approach on the main view screen. Lieutenant Garcia sat at the navigation console, guiding the ship toward their assigned docking port. Standard. Approach vector, Captain, Garcia reported. Docking in 7 minutes. Miller nodded. Thank you, Lieutenant. Maddie, please inform all departments to prepare for arrival. Message sent, Captain. The AI responded smoothly. All departments acknowledge. The Dauntless had completed its original mission despite the interruption. The cargo they carried, specialized, medical equipment and agricultural supplies, was intact and ready for delivery to the colonial settlements beyond Nova Station. Captain, Lisa Jordan called from the communication station, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Admiral Chen requests to speak with you. Miller raised an eyebrow. Put her through to my ready room. Lieutenant Garcia, you have the bridge. In his small office adjacent to the bridge, Miller activated the secure communication screen. The stern face of Admiral Helen Chen appeared, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. Captain Miller, she greeted him. I've reviewed your report about the encounter with the Krasari raiders. Quite the adventure you had. Miller nodded. Yes, Admiral. My crew performed exceptionally. That's why I'm calling, Chen said. Your handling of the situation has created something of a ripple effect. In what way? Chen's expression softened slightly. Word has spread. In the 3 weeks since your encounter, there have been no reported raider attacks on human vessels in that sector. Furthermore, 2 other species have requested information about our cross-training protocols. Miller leaned back in his chair, surprised. That was faster than expected. The 3 beings you rescued were influential in their respective societies, Chen explained. The Novan scientist has particularly been vocal about how humans operate, their ships. He's been giving speeches about it. I see, Miller said. So our little demonstration worked. Better than we could have hoped, Chen agreed. Earth Command is implementing a new initiative based on your experience. We're calling it the Dauntless Protocol. All human vessels will now carry information packets about our cross-training methods to share with other species when appropriate. Miller smiled. My crew will be pleased to hear that. There's more, Chen continued. The Galactic Council has taken notice. They've requested that human representatives present on our approach to ship operations at the next council session. That's unexpected, Miller admitted. The council doesn't usually take interest in how individual species run their ships. Chen nodded. True, but it seems your encounter highlighted something many species haven't considered, that backup systems don't have to be technological. After ending the call with Admiral Chen, Miller returned to the bridge. The Dauntless was now docked at Nova Station, and the crew was preparing for shore leave. Everything all right, Captain? Garcia asked. Better than all right, Miller replied. It seems our Krasari friends have been spreading stories about us. At the scheduled crew briefing in the ship's main conference room, Miller shared the news from Earth Command. The senior officers listened with growing pride. So our way of doing things is becoming famous? Olivia Winters asked. Miller nodded. It appears so. Admiral Chen called it the Dauntless Protocol now, sharing our cross-training methods with other species. Noah Peterson leaned forward. Did they mention what happened to the Krasari? No direct information, Miller said. But the lack of raider activity suggests they've either changed their approach or moved to different hunting grounds. Dr. Robinson spoke up. I've been in contact with my colleague on Nova Station. He mentioned that a Krasari trading vessel docked here last week. Apparently they were conducting legitimate business. The crew exchanged surprised glances. Perhaps our lesson went deeper than we thought, Lisa Jordan suggested. Or they found that honest trade is safer than raiding human ships, Danny Carter added with a smile. After the briefing, the crew dispersed to begin their shore leave rotations. Miller remained behind with Olivia Winters, reviewing maintenance schedules for their stay at Nova Station. You know, Olivia said thoughtfully, when I first joined Earthfleet, I complained about the cross-training requirements. 3 mandatory specialties seemed excessive. Miller smiled, remembering. You said it was a waste of your engineering talent to learn medical procedures and tactical systems. I was wrong, she admitted. I never truly understood the value until we faced those raiders. Miller nodded. Most spacefaring species never question their approach. They build redundancy into their technology because it's easier than building it into their people. Humans took the harder path, Olivia observed. We usually do, Miller agreed. 2 days later, as the Dauntless prepared to depart Nova Station, an unexpected visitor arrived at the airlock. Captain Miller was surprised to find Captain Dresthar waiting, flanked by 2 Krazari officers. Captain Miller, Dresthar greeted him formally. I request permission to speak with you before your departure. Miller studied the Krazari leader, noting the changes in his demeanor. Permission granted, please come aboard. In the conference room, Dresthar placed a small device on the table. It projected a star chart showing a section of space near the Vega Corridor. 3 raider fleets operate in this region, Dresthar explained. Not Krazari, but Drenthai and Voskan. They do not yet know about human ships and their unique properties. Miller understood immediately. You're warning us about potential threats in our path. Drestar's mouth formed the Krazari equivalent of a smile. Consider it a professional courtesy. My fleet has chosen to pursue more legitimate ventures. What changed your mind? Miller asked, genuinely curious. Your people, Dresthar replied simply. In our culture, warriors specialize, leaders lead, technicians fix, medics heal. Everyone has one role, one purpose. It makes us strong in that area, but weak in all others. He gestured around the ship. When my observation team returned, they could not stop talking about what they had seen. A food preparer who fights better than our warriors. A healer who understands complex technology. A leader who knows every function of his vessel. Miller nodded. Different approaches to the same problem of survival. The Krazari Council has authorized a trial program, Dresthar continued. Selected warriors will now train in technical skills. Technicians will learn combat. We begin small, but perhaps one day. Your ships won't need backup systems either, Miller finished for him. As the Dauntless departed Nova Station the next day, the crew returned to their duties with renewed purpose. Their encounter with the Krazari had changed not just how others saw humans, but how they saw themselves. On the bridge, Miller watched his crew work with quiet pride. Lieutenant Garcia smoothly transitioned from navigation to communications, when Lisa stepped away to check a system. Noah Peterson discussed shield modifications with Olivia Winters, both of them understanding the technical and tactical implications. Set course for the Proxima colonies, Miller ordered. Standard speed. As the Dauntless accelerated away from the station, a message came through on an open frequency. It was brief, in the clipped language of the Krazari, but Miller understood its significance. Safe journey, humans. Other ships have backup systems. Yours has something better. Throughout the galaxy, word continued to spread about the humans and their unusual approach to space travel. On dozens of worlds, spacefaring species began to reconsider their own methods. Some dismissed the human way as inefficient or impractical for their kind. Others began cautious experiments with cross-training, but all of them came to understand one important truth. When encountering a human vessel, remember that what makes it dangerous isn't its weapons or its technology. It's the humans themselves.